Exposed, the sinister ritual I discovered in the haunted woods. 7 terrifying secrets revealed. Lily's heart raced as she peered out of her dimly lit window, the trees of the foreboding forest clawing at the night sky. Nothing about the neighborhood seemed right anymore. The whispers of strange happenings wrapped around her, choking her thoughts. Just weeks ago, life felt normal, but now, unsettling rumors snuck around like shadows. What could be lurking in those woods? Something dark. Something sinister. In the close-knit suburb, neighbors once shared friendly hellos and warm smiles, but now she felt the weight of watchful eyes that seemed to flicker with hidden motives. It was unsettling. When Ted reached out with that genial smile of his, suggesting coffee, the knot tightened in her gut. He was too pleasant, too smooth. "No thanks," she murmured, hurrying inside, laughter from Emma and Jake filtering through her front door, a false calm against the brewing storm. Later that evening, while searching through the dust-filled attic for holiday decorations, her fingers brushed against something cold and worn. A leather-bound diary, its spine cracked like a spine of a long-forgotten ghost. A chill washed over her as she thumbed through the disjointed entries filled with bizarre rituals, ancient symbols, and unknown names. Each entry dripped with dread. "The woods hunger, they rise." She read aloud, her voice trembling, her heart pounding. The trees outside seemed to sway closer, their branches beckoning, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. The tension in the air thickened like fog. Emma and Jake's giggles echoed from the backyard, but as she listened closer, their laughter warped into notes of something more sinister, as if they were sharing forbidden secrets with the very woods that frightened their mother. "Stay away from there," she shouted, her voice an anxious whip cracking through the suburban calm. Just that night, the creaking of doors echoed through the hall. Lily felt the air grow colder as a whispered voice lingered just beyond the walls, wrapping around her like a suffocating fog. Her breathing quickened. She rushes to the police, only to find her fears dismissed. "A stressed single mother," they said. "Nothing to worry about," they claimed. Loneliness clawed at her as the familiar faces turned strange, some even avoiding her eye. Most unsettling was Ted. His smile felt different now, more like a warning than a greeting. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue with each entry in the diary. Lily unearthed a network of chilling connections between Ted and her seemingly friendly neighbors and the horrifying past. It felt like a movie she was trapped in, every scene dripping with a mounting sense of dread. She was suffocating under their normal smiles. Protecting Emma and Jake became her only mission. They were spiraling deeper into a game she couldn't understand. Determined to shield her children from the lurking horror, Lily ventured into the woods one dark night, the breath of the trees thick with anger as their silent whispers grew louder. Suddenly, Ted emerged from the shadows, his smirk cutting through the night like a knife, malice flickering beneath the surface. "You shouldn't have come here, Lily," he said, the haunting tone chilling her to the bone. What had she awakened? With the ground trembling beneath them and the shadows creeping closer, she felt the chilling truth seep into her bones. Could she save her children from their innocent games in the woods? As Lily stood rooted in fear, she questioned whether the real terror was the ancient darkness of the forest or something more insidious inside her own community. Time was slipping away, and the whispers were growing louder, eager to reclaim what was taken from them. Lily's breath hitched as she stared into Ted's eyes, an abyss of deception masked by an unsettling charm. The air buzzed, heavy with unspoken threats. Sandy tendrils of fog danced around them, slithering across the leaf-littered ground, encircling her in their cold embrace. Fear churned in her stomach. He knew more than he was letting on. "Why are you here?" she managed, her voice trembling. He chuckled, a sound sharp like glass. "Why do you think? The woods don't like visitors. Especially ones who pry." Suddenly, the shadows deepened, warping into shapes that reached toward Lily, as if the woods themselves crouched to listen. The flicker of something monstrous thrashed beneath the surface of her mind, and, trembling, she took a step back. But her resolve hardened. She couldn't show weakness. Not with Ted. Let my kids go, she demanded, surprising herself with the fierceness that clawed through her terror. His grin widened, and in it was an unsettling hunger. They're already part of it. They were chosen, you know. The ritual has begun. His eyes sparkled with sick glee. Anger washed over her, igniting a fire long thought extinguished. You're sick. This isn't a game. The taunting laughter echoed through the trees, curling like smoke as he leaned closer. You should have left well enough alone. Now, he leaned in further, almost conspiratorially, the woods are aware of you. They don't forget. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled from the depths of the forest, vibrating through the ground like thunder. Ted's expression shifted, fear momentarily replacing the amusement. The laughter of Emma and Jake grew distant and warped, as if lost in the hallowed depths of the woods, their innocence becoming a haunting echo. Lily's heart pounded as she stumbled backward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. With an urgency she hadn't known she possessed, she turned and sprinted away from him, ignoring the rustling branches that seemed to roar in disapproval. Each step was a desperate bid for escape as she darted deeper into the forest, the fog swirling like a living thing. Come back, Lily! He shouted, his voice laced with anger and amusement. It's not over. Branches scratched at her skin, the trees closed in like sentinels, but she couldn't stop. Emma and Jake's laughter turned into screams in her mind, fueling her panic. Stay together, my loves. She had to find them. Suddenly, her foot caught on something, a root, or was it a hand? She fell hard, the impact jarring her bones. As she scrambled to her feet, her breath ragged and wild, she heard distant cries, her children's cries. Mom! They echoed against the gnarled trees, pulling her toward the source, but the air thickened, pregnant with dread. The shadows pulsated menacingly, the whispers crescendos, a chaotic symphony of voices promising salvation or ruin. The trees seemed to bend and warp, enamored by the tumult of the ritual. Make your choice. The woods seemed to roar, crashing waves of noise crashing over her senses. She didn't know if she was running to save her kids or into a tangled web of doom. Heart racing, she followed the sounds, praying to find them before Ted could pull them deeper into his sinister game. But as she approached a clearing, a chilling vision struck her. Firelight flickered in the dark, illuminating figures robed in shadows, their faces hidden beneath hoods. Ritualistic symbols danced in the flames marked by ancient, twisted designs. Was this the terrible truth of what her neighbors had become? Lily's blood ran cold. Driven by the hope of saving Emma and Jake, she knew she had crossed the point of no return. Did she dare to confront them? And what would remain of her once the woods had taken their toll? The crackling flames illuminated the desolate faces of the robed figures, their movements hypnotic yet foreboding. Lily's heart raced as she crouched behind a gnarled tree, her fingers digging into the rough bark. The chanting began, low and guttural, merging with the sinister whispers that echoed in her mind. Each syllable carried weight, a chilling promise of fate woven into the very fabric of the woods. Emma! Jake! She called out, unleashing the names she clung to like a lifeline. The warmth of her voice was swallowed by the darkness, and in its place, only the low hum of the ritual pulsed. The hoods turned as if sensing her presence, heavy shadows bending and twisting to reveal glimpses of pale skin and vacant eyes. She nearly gasped but stifled it, biting her lip to keep quiet. They were watching, waiting, their breath held like the silence before a storm. Yet somewhere, among the chanting, she thought she heard her children's laughter again, an echo blending into the sinister chorus. Hope struck within her, a desperate flicker against the encroaching dread. I will find you, she whispered fiercely, raising her chin. Steeling herself, she peered from behind the tree, the clearing opened like a wound, grass scorched black beneath the flickering fire. In the center stood a makeshift altar, the very essence of malevolence. It was carved from twisted wood, adorned with tokens of the forest's despair, rotting branches, animal bones covered in moss, and dried flowers long past their bloom. The chanting grew louder, more intense, transforming into a frenzy of sound that made Lily's blood run cold. We call to the spirits that dwell within the chosen will be bound. Their voices swelled, crescendoing like a whirlwind against her eardrums. Stop! She screamed, her voice cutting through the unease. The figures turned sharply, eyes glinting with an unholy light. A jolt of panic surged through her. They weren't just neighbors, they were gatekeepers of something ancient and unholy pact. "You shouldn't have come," one of them uttered, a voice like gravel, raspy and infused with a hollow rage. "Now you've disturbed the balance." Lily stumbled backward, cutting her gaze to the altar as a figure shifted behind it. Her breath hitched. It was her daughter. Emma, bound by vines that twisted cruelly around her arms, a look of sheer terror etched across her small face. Jake was beside her, his eyes wide with confusion. "No!" The anguish ripped through her. Suddenly, the cultists advanced, hands reaching out as if to seize her. The fear was intoxicating, coursing like poison through her veins. She was frozen, torn between despair and defiance, the forest around her seemingly pulsing with malevolence, urging her to join the sacrificing shadows. But she would not be a part of this. Not her children. Not now. Summoning all her strength, she dashed toward the altar, desperation fueling her flight. "Mom! Help!" Their voices cut through the chaos, guiding her as the figures closed in. Lily lunged forward, grasping at Emma's vines, tearing at the bindings with frantic fingers. The chanting reached a fever pitch, and she felt a deep resonance within her, as if the forest itself pulsed with hungry anticipation. "Foolish!" The gravelly voice warned, echoing off the trees, dark laughter taunting her failure. "Join them or face the wrath of the woods." As the last of the vines broke free, Lily's heart soared with hope, but the ground trembled beneath her. Dark tendrils snaked around her feet, tethering her to the altar as shadowy figures closed in, their eyes glowing like dying embers of fear wrapped around her heart like a vice, squeezing tight. What was this place? What had she awakened? In that moment, a revelation pierced through her fraying sanity. This was only the beginning. The woods demanded more than mere sacrifice. They craved devotion. As the figures advanced, Lily realized there was no escape. The echo of Ted's voice loomed in her mind, a haunting reminder that whatever had been awakened would not let them go so easily. All at once, a harsh wind swept through the clearing, tossing shadows against the trees, and she was left with one agonizing choice: run or join the dark communion of the woods. Lily's breath caught, the weight of her decision crashing down like the darkness that enveloped them. What price was she willing to pay to save her children? Would she sacrifice her own soul for their safety? With a split-second decision that could seal their fate, she lunged toward the fire, but would it bring them salvation or plunge them into the eternal abyss? The moment Lily plunged into the flames, a rush of heat engulfed her. It wasn't a natural fire, it pulsed with an eerie glow, each flicker ridged with darkness that reached out like fingers. The cultists gasped, astonished, their voices halting mid-chant as if the very air had thickened with her boldness. "Mom!" Emma's terrified eyes bore into Lily, and for a heartbeat, everything else faded away. The flames crackled louder, as if in protest. Lily felt a surge of energy, a fierce protective force that surged through her veins, igniting her spirit as fiercely as the fire. Yet, as she dove deeper into the heart of the blaze, a strange sensation washed over her. The warmth should have embraced her, but it twisted, it reached inside, whispering dark thoughts that clawed at her mind. What was she really willing to take from the woods? The tendrils released their grip, tugging her feet free as she fought to keep her focus on Emma and Jake. Torn between the altar and the throng of approaching figures, she started to pull her children free of the remnants of the vines, but her fingers struggled with the cruel knots as the chanting began again, bouncing in chaotic echoes around her. "Join us!" The figures chanted, their distorted voices melding into a single, slithering entity. Fear dripped from those words. They weren't calling just for her, they wanted possession of her very soul. "No!" she screamed, yanking harder. She felt the weight of the woods pressing down, suffocating her with its presence. Every rustle of leaves and creak of branch felt like a warning. But she had to get her children out, had to escape this twisted gathering. Of the flames brightened, beckoning, and oddly familiar, as voices called her name, her own name, but distorted and charged with unearthly resonance. "Lily, embrace your fate. Join the Union." Lily's breath hitched. She could feel something shifting inside her, a part of her that teetered on the brink of yielding. Sweat poured down her forehead, and her heart hammered against her ribs as she fought the urge to succumb. Was there even a choice anymore? "Mom! Over here!" Jake's small hand gripped hers, grounding her back to reality. Panic flickered within her like the wild dance of flames. She freed Emma, and with a newfound determination, they stumbled away from the altar, turning toward the dark figures closing in around them. The chanting rose, a cacophony of ancient words that rattled her bones. "Leave the forest." She heard a voice, deeper and more resonant than all, beckoning through the chaos. "You will not take their light, they belong to us." Something crashed through the tree line just beyond the circle, a mass wrapped in shadow, charging toward the cultists. A surge of adrenaline shot through Lily as she dragged her children toward this unexpected disturbance. The figures halted, eyes darting towards the emerging creature, uncertainty seen in their once confident posture. The darkness descended on them, as if fighting for dominance over the light. "Protect the children!" The gravelly voice commanded, but it quickly turned into desperate wails as the creature sent a shockwave of power sparking through the woods. "What is that?" Emma gasped, eyes wide. "I don't know." "Keep moving." They sprinted toward the tree line, the chaos erupting behind them as the shadows writhed against the encroaching beast. Lily glanced back, fear gnawing at her insides. What had she awakened that night? The ground quaked beneath them, filled with the echoes of terror and anguish. Whatever they were running from, it wasn't just the cult, it was something primal, something hungry. "Are we safe?" Jake's voice trembled, pulling her focus back. "Not yet." They weren't out of danger. The creature's roar pierced the night, commanding attention, drawing a line between light and dark. But as they rushed deeper into the forest, the very ground shifted beneath them, trees warped, branches entwining to block their path. Suddenly, visibility faltered, swallowed by thick fog. "Mom!" Emma screamed as the mist thickened, shrouding them in uncertainty. Lily's heart raced, her grip tightening around her children's hands. They were not alone. Something lurked, watching, waiting to see if they would survive the nightmare ahead or become mere offerings to the darkness. "What if we can't find our way out?" Jake whispered. A chill crept up Lily's spine. The forest would not let them go without a price. Would they pay it willingly? Or would they find a way to defy the shadows closing in, determined to reclaim their freedom? The forest seemed to listen, the fog swirling around them, pregnant with secrets. And with every step, the question loomed, what price was truly worth escaping the woods? The answers lay just beyond reach, taunting, ready to unravel them. The fog thickened, wrapping around them like a shroud, obscuring the path ahead. Lily's heart raced as fear clawed at her throat. She strained to listen, trying to catch any sound beyond the suffocating silence. Jake squeezed her hand tighter, his small fingers trembling. "Mom, I can't see." Lily's eyes darted around, but the mist swallowed everything. She could feel it. Something was moving in the shadows. The humidity pressed against her skin, a suffocating reminder of the beast that had roared moments before. "Just hold on to me," she whispered, trying to sound calm even as panic clawed at her. With every step, the fog held them hostage. Voices drifted through the air, faint and disembodied, whispering their names, urging them to come closer. Lily it slithered in a haunting tone that made her skin crawl. "Don't listen," she commanded, pushing forward, fighting against the pull of those malicious whispers. Determination surged within her. She wasn't just fleeing for her life, she was fighting to protect her children from whatever darkness loomed. But as they steered deeper into the mist, the trees twisted grotesquely, remorseful limbs reaching out as if attempting to recapture them. "Mom!" Emma's eyes brimmed with tears, her voice a desperate plea. Each step felt heavier, as though the very ground sought to drag them back. Lily gritted her teeth, forcing movement through sheer will. "We can't stop. We have to keep going," she urged, but doubt trickled into her thoughts. How could they escape this place that seemed so intent on keeping them lost? Suddenly, as if the very earth had split under their feet, the ground quaked violently. Weakening shadows loomed, darting and dancing in the fog, angry and alive. The price, a voice whispered, low and sinuous. "What will you pay? What do you want from us?" Lily found herself shouting into the invisible void. Silence engulfed her question, but a chill ran through her spine as sinister understanding that they would be made to choose piecemeal sacrifices, a haunting echo of the cultist chant ringing back to her. They bolted again, adrenaline driving their legs even as their lungs burned. All around, the air shimmered either with the ghostly remnants of what once was or what was yet to come. A shard of hope pierced through the terror. "Look!" Jake shouted, pointing ahead as the fog began to thin. Lily squinted, focusing on a faint glimmer beyond the trees. It flickered like a distant lantern, pulsating with a hopeful glow. "Run!" she urged, rallying her kids. They pressed on toward the light, breaths ragged and desperate. But the shadows seethed behind them, angry and relentless. The whispers escalated into clamoring shouts, "Join us! This will be your home!" Lily grasped her children tightly as they thundered toward the light. Almost there. Almost without warning, the ground erupted. Roots snapped at their ankles, dragging them down as the ominous figures emerged from the furthest shadows, faces pale and hollow. Their laughter echoed, a sickening tune that prickled Lily's skin. Too late. You cannot escape. No! She screamed, struggling against the pull of darkness, but it encircled her like a serpent, tightening its grip. The children's screams echoed in her ears, and facing the figures, all Lily could see were hungry eyes and outstretched hands. Despair clawed at her heart as the light flickered alarmingly, fading on the edges. In one last act of defiance, with every ounce of strength, she yanked her arm, freeing her grasp on Jake. Clarity rose just as the darkness lunged. Igniting every ounce of her being, Lily shouted, "Run! Don't look back!" But in the chaos, as her children tore away into the safety of the light, Lily felt the grip of the shadows pull her back, the forest closing in. The laughter rang in her ears, mocking and cruel. The ground beneath her shifted, swirling into a chasm of dark nothingness. With one final glance back, she saw Emma and Jake hesitating, caught at the edge of safety, fear etched on their faces. "Mom!" they cried, and in that haunting moment, the fog enveloped her completely. Leaving only echoes of their voices behind, what had she unleashed in this cursed place? Would they find their way back to her, or would they become lost in the darkness forever? As the void consumed her, the shadows whispered promises that twisted her gut. Her plight was just beginning. What did they demand? The question lingered like the fog, thick and suffocating. Lily plunged into the pitch-black abyss, a depthless void that swallowed her cries and any remnants of hope. The gray mist encased her tightly, wrapping around her like a shroud that weighed on her very soul. She felt the floor give way beneath her feet, a swirling darkness that mimicked the chaos in her mind. "Mom!" The voices of her children echoed in her consciousness, blending with the sinister whispers of the forest. It was a cacophony of sound that twisted painful memories around her heart. The shadows danced, mocking and beckoning, flitting just out of her vision. She reached out, desperate to catch something, anything, a trace of light, a sensation of safety. But her hands met only emptiness. Panic surged through her as she fought against the darkness that had claimed her. "Emma! Jake!" she yelled, desperation cracking her voice. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Join us, they dripped into her mind like poison, dragging her thoughts into despair. She felt herself being pulled in every direction, the darkness entwining around her, as if it had its own will. Suddenly, a flash, something brushed against her leg. Coldness curled around her ankle, tightening like a vice. She gasped, her heart pounding as a low growl emanated from the shadows, reverberating through the hollowed ground. The creatures were near, lurking, watching. With her pulse racing, she forced herself to move. Lily stumbled, blindly reaching forward, her every instinct screaming to run. But the whispers reached deeper now, morphing into words that clawed at her mind. "Your children, they are ours now. Leave them alone." She screamed defiantly, the sound echoing back at her as if the forest itself laughed at her fear. In a moment of clarity amid the terror, Lily concentrated on her children, Jake's bright eyes and Emma's fierce spirit. They were her anchor. She stumbled forward, trying to remember fragments of the chant she heard before, desperate to reclaim control. "Leave me be. I'll give you nothing." Lily paused, breath hitching as the shadows seemed to recede momentarily, drawn back like a tide. She seized the opportunity and surged onward, every step a battle against the anguished pull. Then, an unexpected warmth enveloped her, a flickering light igniting ahead. It was that same glimmer from before, pulsing with a promise. Was this a mirage, a hollow trick of the mist? Hope surged. She rushed towards it, fueled by raw instinct. But the darkness howled angrily, snapping at her heels, an infernal beast unwilling to let her go. The price, it hissed, as if sensing her growing resolve. Not today, she growled, defying the void behind her. Her heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire. She sprinted, embracing the light, as the shadows crashed down all around, determined to reclaim their prize. Lily reached the illumination, a brilliant orb shimmering with otherworldly energy. It enveloped her, casting the shadows back like sunlight shooing away a storm. She felt the pressure easing, the whispers shrieking in frustration. "Mom!" A voice called out, suddenly piercing through the darkness. It was Jake, his small silhouette materializing just outside the glow, fear and hope intersecting in his wide eyes. Emma stood next to him, tears streaking her cheeks. "Get back! Please!" Lily screamed, panic drowning her again as foreboding figures thrived in the depths behind her, their twisted faces peering out like hungry wolves. "Mom, please! We need you!" Emma's voice wavered, the shadows closing in, shifting menacingly. In that instant, Lily realized the shadows were not merely seeking her, they craved her children. "Stay close! I'm coming!" she cried, pushing against the blinding light that offered a moment of solace, but then, in a heart-stopping instant, the ground trembled once more. Horrifying shapes began to pull back to the threshold of the light, figures clawing to reach the safety they craved. They were hungry. They wanted in. And suddenly, as if sensing their struggle, the light flickered, wavering. "No! Not now!" Lily roared. Internally, as the sweet warmth began to dim, she felt the pull intensify. As Lily wrangled with her fears, the light flickered again, illuminating a ritual marking on the ground, a sinister design darkened by age and blood. Recognition struck her, these were the symbols she had seen in the cult's gathering. "Break it! You have to break it!" whispered a faint voice, sharp as ice. In desperation, she grabbed a nearby rock shattered into fragments by the churn of the earth. The darkness shrieked, but it wasn't just defiance, it was a battle for freedom. Would she dare shatter the chains? What would it cost her? As she raised the stone high, shadows lunged at her, swallowing the air around her with the weight of their hunger. What awaited on the other side of her choice? Would the light restore her family or condemn them all? Lily swung the rock down, the weight of her resolve mixing violently with terror. For an agonizing second, she hovered in indecision, the shadows lunging closer, their dread-filled faces twisting in fury. The sharp edges of the stone caught the flickering light, reflecting her desperate determination. Just as the rock met the ground with a thunderous crack, a piercing shriek echoed throughout the darkness, shattering the eerie stillness like broken glass. The shadow figures recoiled, howling as if wounded, their forms swirling rapidly, pulled back like smoke caught in a cyclone. Lily's heart raced as the symbols beneath her shattered, fracturing like ice in springtime. A pulsing shockwave rippled through the air, most intensely around her children, sending them flying backward but out of reach of the shadows. Breathless, Lily turned to search for them but found the golden glimmer at her side dimming rapidly. "Mom!" Emma cried, scrambling to her feet, reaching out toward the weakening light. Jake was at her side, eyes wide with fear. "Hold on!" Lily yelled, blood pumping in her ears. She felt the chill of the shadows clawing at her again, drawn to the flickering light like moths to a flame. "Stay where you are." But the moment passed too quickly. The darkness snarled, reforming into elongated claws that burst towards her, a maw of teeth gnashing hungrily, aiming for the vulnerability that now showed like a wound in the fabric of reality. With each pulse of the waning light, the shadows grew bolder. "You can't escape," they whispered, echoing through the air, wrapping around her mind, weaving despair through her thoughts once more. "They belong to us." Panic flooded her veins. Had she sacrificed everything for a futile glimmer? No! With a primal scream, Lily swept both of her arms in an arc, as if waging war against the unseen. "No! They're mine! You can't take them!" The shadows hesitated, as though stung by her fierce declaration. The truth roared inside her like a wildfire. She wasn't just a mother pleading, she was a lioness protecting her cubs from predators. The ground pulsed beneath her, the symbols had ignited. Their edges glowed with vile energy, illuminating the encroaching dark like a lighthouse cutting through a storm. The shadows shrieked, their forms melting and congealing in terror. "Look! Mom!" Jake shouted, his voice igniting a flicker of hope in Lily's chest. She turned to see the glowing markings pulsing underfoot, illuminating a path woven from desperation and instinct. "Follow the light," she commanded, shoving aside her fear. The children rushed toward her, their tiny faces lit with determination and dread. Time fragmented as the shadows lunged, their grasp threatening to snatch away what was left of their fragile reality. As they stumbled, Lily clasped both of their hands tightly, squeezing them like lifelines. They shot down the path, the markings dancing visibly beneath them, revealing an exit just ahead, a sanctuary potentially hidden amidst the relentless darkness. But the air crackled with tension when an ominous shadow broke free from the mass. Larger and more menacing than the others, it towered in indigo, a perverse caricature of despair. Lacerated eyes bore down upon them, its maw moving, whispering words that ripped through the fabric of fear and hope alike. "You can't escape, it's your fault they're here." Lily felt the weight of dread pressing down fiercely. What did it want? It was as if the creature held her deepest insecurities, her fears of failure, right down to the marrow of her bones. But that couldn't be true. She had fought hard to get this far. With a primal growl, she pulled her children closer, resolute. "Together!" she shouted. A flash of light, their unity activated something within the glowing symbols, casting a radiant force that pushed against the shadows. But would it be enough? Would their bond be enough to drive away the darkness that surrounded them? A rumbling echoed, both from beneath and above, a portent of danger yet to come, as the very essence of the darkness churned with a hunger unquenchable. And there, just a heartbeat away from what might be salvation, a choice hung perilously in the air, a crossroad between light and void. Could they escape together? Or were they bound, simply delaying their inevitable doom? Lily tugged her kids forward, urgency firing through her veins. The indigo shadow loomed behind them, an ever-present reminder of the threat they faced. "We can't stop. Keep running." The symbols on the ground pulsed with energy, guiding their frantic escape like a beacon. Each step felt electric, charged with the desperation to flee. The shouts of the shadow, twisted and beckoning, clawed at her sanity. "You will pay for leaving us. You will pay." Ahead, the light-washed path shimmered and shifted. But each footfall grew heavier. Lily's determination clashed with the weight of dread pressing in from all around. Behind them, the whispers crescendoed into a symphony of fury. Menacing figures lunged from the darkness, their claw-like hands snatching at air, weaving through shadows, reaching for flesh. Lily felt Jake stumble, his small fingers slipping from hers for just a breath. "Hold on!" she screamed, spinning around. As if responding to her command, Jake's grip tightened just in time. Emma's fear-stricken face met her gaze, bright spots of terror in the chaos. "Mom! Don't look back. Just run." They darted forward, the pulsing symbols flaring brighter, mere steps from the sanctuary. Yet the shadows breathed heavily, relentless and unwavering in their pursuit. Lily finally caught a glimpse of their destination, a massive oak tree, twisted and gnarled, its hollow trunk like an open mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Hope surged within her, fueling her legs, each strike competing against the gnashing darkness, and then, a blinding flash erupted from the symbols beneath them. Jake yelled as the power wobbled, a flash of pale light scouring the shadows. Lily stumbled, then felt that something cold and despairing reached out, pulling her backward. For a moment, she was suspended between safety and the dark. "No!" she roared, but doubt infiltrated her heart. Was this a trap? The darkness spun, a maelstrom of howling whispers attacking her senses, drowning out everything but fear. "You made us, did you think you could just leave?" "No!" she shouted, refusing to yield. Shaking off the icy grip, she urged her children forward. "Together! We go together!" The shadows roared in protest, their chorus of rage echoing inside her skull, taunting her failures, her flaws. Each accusation was a blade, cutting deeper, trying to sway her resolve. But she pressed forward, willing the light back into her heart. Almost there! She breathed, her own voice a lifeline against the encroaching doom. With one last push, they burst into the shadow of the ancient tree. Inside, the air shimmered, an enchanting glow washing over them. Lily's breath hitched as she noticed runes along the tree's interior, intricate and mesmerizing. The pulsing energy felt alive as tendrils of light wrapped around them, momentarily cocooning them from the shadows, but they weren't safe yet. The shadows surged forward, shrieking with collective fury. "You cannot hide. You think this place will protect you? You don't belong here." Lily felt a tremor beneath her feet, a warning sign the ground was shifting. It was as if the very essence of the woods reacted to the presence of darkness. The light was bending, warping as something more sinister began to unfold. "Mom! What's happening?" Emma's voice trembled, wide-eyed with confusion and fear. "I don't know. But we have to trust each other. Trust the light." As the shadows surged, it felt like the tree's hollow center twisted into a deeper darkness, consuming the light, ready to unleash the very horrors that lurked in the void. Would their unity hold? Or would the darkness finally feast on what they had fought to protect? With each pulse of terror that filled the air, Lily knew they approached the heart of their horrific trial. The choice loomed like a shadow over them, dark and insatiable. What would this tree reveal? There was still time, but would they dare to unravel its secrets? Lily clutched her children tighter as the shadows raged just outside the shimmering barrier. The glowing runes pulsed in a frantic rhythm, as if responding to their panic. The tree felt both welcoming and ominous. It hummed beneath their feet, alive yet unnatural, and an unshakable feeling of dread settled over them. "What do we do, Mom?" Jake whispered, his voice small amidst the chaos. "Stay close to me." "Hold on tight," she said, feeling the weight of her words. She could hardly breathe, fear wrapping around her throat like a vice. The shadows screeched, a cacophony of voices intertwining in a maddening blend of rage and despair. "You are ours. You cannot escape. It is too late." Lily pressed her palms against the tree's rough bark, a desperate plea for solace. "Please, give us a way out," she implored, her voice trembling with emotion. The air shimmered, and for a moment, the echoes of the shadowy whispers faded into a haunting silence. But then, with a sudden jolt, the ground quaked beneath them. A deep rumble like a warning bell intensified the shadow's fury. The glowing runes began to flicker, dimming, threatening to extinguish completely. Lily's heart raced. "What's happening? We need to what if we're trapped here forever?" Emma's eyes widened, reflecting the moonlight filtering through the leaves. "No. We can't think like that," Lily shouted, forcing confidence she didn't feel into her voice. "We have to find something. Anything that can help." As she scanned the trunk's intricate patterns, she noticed a small opening at the base of the tree. It was dark and inviting, a jagged line hinting of a deeper secret. The whispers from the shadows grew more frantic, sensing their shift in focus. "Mom, please don't," Jake urged, gripping her pant leg in fear. But the glimmer of hope was impossible to resist. "Trust the light," she repeated, pulling away from her children just enough to edge nearer to the opening. With shaky breaths, she peered inside. A glowing orb rested within, pulsating with energy pure and bright. Her fingers tingled as she reached for it, the shadows outside screeching louder, enraged at their chance slipping away. Before she could touch the orb, a chilling gust surged past her, extinguishing the light from the runes entirely. Darkness poured in, thick and suffocating, pressing against her chest, stealing away her breath. "No!" Lily screamed, jumping back. The shadows enveloped the tree, twisting into terrifying shapes, monstrous and grotesque. "We have to go." "Wait!" Emma cried, her voice a tremor of panic. "What about the orb?" But Lily could feel the shadowy grip tightening, claws of despair clenching around her heart. They had no time. "We have to move, now." She grabbed Jake's hand, pulling him along as she turned from the darkness creeping toward the opening. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to split, massive cracks stretching outward, the roots of the tree twisting like snakes in agony. The shadows roared, their appetite whetted by the chaos, hungry for her failure. "Mom!" Emma shouted as her footing slipped. In an instinctive motion, Lily dashed forward and caught her just before she fell into the abyss forming beneath them, but the ground continued to tremble, pulling at their feet like a vortex seeking to swallow them whole. "Now!" Lily urged, danger coursing through her veins. "Run!" They darted back toward the light, but the shadows were relentless. Just as they neared safety, one shadow lunged for Jake, fingers outstretched, desperate and clawing. "No!" Lily cried, her heart hammering. The moment felt stretched like an eternity. In that split second, she made a choice, driven by unyielding love. Would she sacrifice herself to save her children? Her breath hitched as she prepared to face the darkness. What had this tree released? What were the dark secrets it protected, and could she truly withstand what was coming next? Lily's heart pounded wildly as she faced the encroaching darkness, the monstrous shadow stretching toward her. Time slowed, and the world narrowed to that one moment of choice. She felt the warmth of her children behind her, their presence anchoring her fiercely against the pull of despair. No matter the cost, she would fight for them. "Go! Run!" she screamed, her voice a bolt of lightning piercing the dread that had seeped into her very marrow. She couldn't let the shadows claim her. She couldn't let them take her children. She pushed forward, adrenaline surging, as she breathed deeply, letting it wash over her. The shadow lunged, its claws a whisper of death. Lily closed her eyes and held her ground. "You can't take my children!" she roared, as if her voice alone could defy the abyss. "We are stronger than you." Suddenly, a surge of energy coursed through her, ignited by a fierce resolve. The ground beneath her trembled, pulsing like a heartbeat, and the ancient tree responded, drawing strength from her determination. The illuminated symbols erupted in a brilliant flash, resonating with her spirit and reflecting in the shadow's eyes. A ferocious wind howled inside the hollow tree, pushing the darkness back, fighting against those grasping tendrils. In that moment, Lily felt invincible. The shadows faltered, snarling and shrieking, grappling with their own fury. "You think this is a battle of strength?" The foremost shadow spat, its voice rumbling like thunder. "You will falter, just like the others before you." The defiance sparked within her, a flame licking greedily at despair's coldness. "You underestimate a mother's love," she bellowed, holding onto that flickering light, the glow of her children behind her mingling with the energy swirling between them. The shadows recoiled, twisting like smoke caught in a gust. They lunged again, but Lily stood firm. She felt fear merged with a raw power that coursed through her veins and connected her to the earth. It drove her forward as she calenced the shadows, pushing them outward with each wave of energy she summoned. "You have no hold over us. You can't feed on our fear." With a heart-pounding roar that seemed to echo within the very fabric of the woods, she launched herself forward, arms outstretched. The light erupted like a supernova, engulfing everything in its path, both children and the grasping shadows. The glowing orb within the hollow surged, the pressure of light suffocating the dark with fervent resolve. "Mom!" Emma and Jake cried out in unison, their voices a melody of hope that rang clearer than the shadows' howls. And with that, Lily dove into the heart of the light, wrapping her children in a protective embrace as they soared through tainted darkness into a spiraling circle of pure energy. Together they fused with the energy of the woods, a last desperate act against the darkness, light defeating shadow within that sanctified space. The tree convulsed, its roots shuddering against the impeding gloom, cracking open the cursed soil beneath, exposing the very fears that had held them captive. Lily squeezed her children tighter, willing them to believe. "We are together. We are strong," she shouted through the resonating chaos, and with newfound strength, she felt the light binding them, dispersing the shadows and driving the darkness far from their reach. Cracks widened across the ancient tree, the shadows shrieking in denial as they fell back into the abyss from whence they came. With one last push, Lily felt the weight of the world lift, and she turned to her children, those precious faces awash in warmth and safety. The shadows dissolved, their anguished cries fading like echoes in a story. The golden glow enveloped them tighter, pinning their existence within the boundary of that sacred light. And the forest itself seemed to breathe anew, releasing the generations of pain forged by sinister rituals that once ruled the woods. Suddenly, they spilled free from the enchanted glow, landing gently on a soft carpet of grass. Lily blinked against the sudden brightness of the world, finding herself back in the safety of the clearing. The whispers had subsided, replaced with the distant rustle of leaves and the soft chirp of birds easing back to life. "Mom?" Jake's voice trembled with disbelief, his small fingers weaving through hers once more. "We're safe," she replied, sweeping them both into her arms, trembling from the recent encounter with the unspeakable. Emma hugged them tightly, her breath warm against Lily's skin. "What happened? Is it over?" "Yes, my loves. I think it's over." Relief washed over her, flooding her being. But just as the warmth of peace filled the air, Lily turned, gazing back toward the depths of the woods. There was something still lurking there, a knowledge that while they had escaped, the true fight was just beginning. Behind the trees, shadows flitted, whispering mournful promises that one day, they would return. Lily shuddered. "Let us go home," she said quietly, her voice stronger now, the fierce bond of their unity guiding them forward. They turned from the haunted woods, stepping into the tranquil morning light that broke, cascading warmth over them, and for the first time, Lily's heart felt light as they walked back toward their neighborhood. Days would come, and they would heal, but she would never forget. And as the trees whispered secrets behind them, she knew the battle to protect their light was far from over. Now it's your turn to ensure you never miss another thrilling story. You need to subscribe now and hit that bell so you won't miss the next exclusive tale. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who would love to dive into this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice is important, so let us hear it.